About a couple days or so ago at the time of writing, a controversial but popular Dead by Daylight streamer, Junebug, was outed as being a serial emotional abuser, especially towards women, with his most recent, most public, and most heinous act of lesbian yet being against his own longtime best friend, Violent Lesbian. This is why you should stay away from Junebug. Junebug, also known as Anthony, is a United States Army veteran and a Dead by Daylight streamer who began streaming in late 2019, citing fellow streamer Warrior Puppers as his inspiration on his Twitch About section, who was another Dead by Daylight streamer who suffered from ALS and yet was an overwhelmingly positive force within the community. Junebug suffers from an autoimmune disease known as interstitial nephritis uvulatus, which is TINU for short. Sorry if I butchered the full name of that. It's a rare medical condition that causes inflammation in a major area of the eye, as well as inflammation within the tubes of the kidneys. It causes mild to severe pain in the affected eyes, and can even impact vision, as well as fever, weight loss, fatigue, loss of appetite, and joint pains. TINU is apparently so rare that the Wikipedia page is more bare bones than a skull merchant man's playstyle. Autoimmune diseases in general are horrible to deal with from what I've heard, especially for my mother, who has Hashimoto's, which affects the thyroid. June's TINU will become important later on. Bug is also known to frequently struggle with his mental health, even to the point of apparently attempting suicide. He suffers from borderline personality disorder, which is defined in the DSM-5 as a pervasive pattern of instability in interpersonal relationships, self-image, and emotion, as well as notable impulsivity usually developing by early adulthood, as indicated by having 5 or more symptoms in the DSM-5. The 9 possible symptoms of bipolar disorder are chronic feelings of emptiness, emotional instability in reaction to day-to-day events, frantic efforts to avoid real or imagined abandonment, and the identity disturbance with markedly or persistently unstable image of self-image or sense of self, impulsive behavior in at least 2 areas that are potentially self-damaging, i.e. sex, substance abuse, or reckless driving, inappropriate intense anger or difficulty controlling anger, a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by extremes between idealization and devaluation, recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures, threats, or self-harming behavior, transient stress-related paranoid ideation, or severe dissociative symptoms. This will become relevant within the meat of this video, let's say. June gathers notoriety from his bombastic, energetic, impulsive, and talkative energy on stream, which is pretty much a golden ticket for any aspiring streamer. He's also not as bad as Survivor. Saw him getting injured from a zombie on purpose just to get the speed and get a flashlight save on the Nemesis, which I have to admit, it's pretty smart and ballsy and never something I would have considered doing myself. He has been involved in drama in the past for his impulsivity though, mainly for heated exchanges with other players and streamers and or being condescending towards the people he plays against. There have even been accusations of him supposedly playing up his mental struggles more whenever he's in hot water like clockwork. Probably not the last time you're going to hear me say this, but this will be important later. And I also want to iterate before this video goes further that people with borderline personality disorder are not inherently bad people. So I just want to get that cleared up before we go on. Junebug has managed an impressively sizable audience mainly off his energy and high-end skill at the game. This would ring especially true when he used to play with his friends and outplay killers together, and viewers enjoyed how they worked off of each other. This is where the persecutor of today's topic comes in. Violent Lesbian, also known as Selena or Selly, is also a Dead by Daylight streamer as well as a very skilled Survivor main, not too dissimilar to Junebug. She gained traction on Twitch for many of the same reasons that June got big, although less amped up 24/7 on stream like he was. I'm unable to find details on how or when they met and became friends, but from what I know, they hit it off, and both of their viewer bases massively enjoy the content they made together. Selly was also finds herself in hot water from time to time, but as far as I'm aware, not to the degree that June got into. I actually played against her recently in a game as the Onryo on one of the Coldwood Farm maps, and she was pretty damn good to play against. I got my ass beat, obviously, but the match was still good fun, especially when we both played chicken at the shack window. We both exchanged GGs on Twitter, and from that whole encounter, she seemed pretty chill. Polar opposite to how June carries himself most of the time, but that's beside the point. However, there were some cracks in their friendship as time went on, which became more and more prevalent over time until it boiled over into the reason that I'm making this video. July 1st, 2023, Selly posted a hefty Google Doc on our Twitter, captioned, "Why me and June are no longer friends." The document itself is roughly 2,124 words long, so I'll give the TLDR provided and then go over some disturbing points of interest that stuck out to me. TLDR. I am not friends with June anymore because he faked being in the hospital for 2 weeks, telling me daily that he was dying or that he had got multiple operations. Also faked a suicide by unplugging his machines that were keeping him alive. Acted like a nurse texting me after he quote-unquote attempted that he was brain dead and needed a miracle. And when I asked why he faked it, he told me it was because he wanted to be loved. I was mourning June every day, crying that I'm losing my best friend at any second to his illness. I was being manipulated in many ways. He said his plan was to kill himself and act like it happened medically. But if that was the case, why would he fake that he was dying daily? Put me through his trauma for what? He said that I drove him to do this because I treated him poorly. So, just based on that spark note alone, June is actually way more horrific of a person than meets the surface. It's not unheard of for people with BPD to fake being in a rut or being in an urgent situation to get attention from loved ones, especially crushes or romantic partners. But June takes it to a whole other level with just nothing short of ungodly. His behavior is beyond any kind of rationalization. Even writing the script, I'm getting stuck on what to say. Putting that emotional load on one of your closest friends, making them think that any second could be your last, even LARPing as medical professionals, telling your friend that you're dying over the course of 2 whole weeks of our Lord is near unforgivable. And even that's an understatement. Selly managed to find out through pushing him to turn on his location, which revealed that he wasn't even walking distance from a hospital that had an ICU. Well, he even came to find out that he's allegedly also done this kind of stuff to numerous other women before. Over the course of the whole document, it was clear to me that June was trying to emotionally goad her into a romantic relationship with him, despite the way she swung being abundantly evident from just her online, nickname alone. Put the link to the full document in the description below, in case you're reading it and interested in reading through it yourself. Now I'll go over some points from the doc that stuck out to me and just how much of an affront to God that they were. According to Selena, June had allegedly never really went to therapy much at all, or even took it seriously, even when he said he was going to therapy or taking a break for his mental health, which usually didn't last long. June also allegedly doesn't even schedule his own appointments, instead of relying on his girlfriend to schedule them. He allegedly just lives through her and doesn't really do much of anything on his own, except for, like, the manipulation mentioned in the document. And oh yeah, he's got a girlfriend, which makes the stuff about him trying to goad Selly to be in love with him 60 times worse than it already was. This is slightly unrelated, but I didn't know that Selena went by Silly until I read more into the doc, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was intentional misspelling of Silly to appear more delirious to goad her further, given his track record. He appears throughout the doc to get decently confrontational whenever Selena streamed or posted over the aforementioned 2 weeks that what I like to call the Glass Bones arc happens. He seemingly jokingly calls her a flag, which I am substituting for a very bad anti-LGBT slur at one point. Given the context of him trying to make Selly an openly lesbian woman his SO, I personally think that it might go trenches deeper than just an innocent jab between friends. In a Twitter post about a couple of days after the doc dropped, Selena posted one more additional Snapchat exchange in which June seems to ask why she even became lesbian. Yeah, we've got a real psychology PhD from Hamburger University over here. It's basically like asking someone why they have ADHD. He was imitating a nurse. His style of texting barely changes, but Selly doesn't register this. This is actually pretty common among serial emotional abusers. as they oftentimes don't even need to disguise as much because they've already manipulated targets so much that by that point they'd have a harder time recognizing stuff like that. I firmly believe that's what he managed to do with Selena, and it's like, and if this is something he managed, then it's terrifying how good he seems to be at manipulation. There are incidents shown in the doc in the past before the Glass Bones incident, in which you would get, like, a little bit more harsh with her, almost like tame precursors to now. And at one point, he mentions doctors finding a tumor that is most likely cancerous on his kidney. This is never brought up by him, for some reason, thus further flushing down his credibility. The amount of times that he medically died and was brought back is obscenely unlikely in real life. Like, you have a higher chance of winning the lottery, unlikely. He also allegedly did a stream sometime after the doc dropped where he just mulled it about her non-stop the entire time and just didn't even show any remorse despite his seemingly half-assed apology on his Twitter page. I cannot confirm this, but if it's true, it just wouldn't surprise me as of now. One time when he found out about Selena's plans to go bar hopping with a friend who happened to be female, which he was oriented to, he conveniently started dying again, making her cancel her plans. Go figure. Not really any kind of detail, but when he says she hurt him badly, I let out an audible chuckle because there's nothing that Selena could have done, or said to him that could justify this sheer magnitude of, like, manipulation, like faking dying for 2 weeks. That's just insane. Last but not least, Selena states that the whole incident and losing a friend that she always believed was, well, her friend, turned out to be a demonic jackass, caused her to become suicidal. This doesn't surprise me at all, as, like, these kinds of incidents can cause extreme, like, mental turmoil in someone, especially if they've already had mental complications in the past. And in the end, I'm glad that she did not go through with it in the slightest, because many, many other people are not strong like that. And something I want to say before I continue, if you or a loved one is considering suicide, please call the National Suicide Hotline, 811. Just, it gets better, man. I promise you. It sounds like bullshit, but it does. This whole situation just goes to show how you never truly know a guy. We've seen this time and again with Mini Lad, CM Winter, and most recently, Zumad. I can't even imagine what Selena had to go through after going through, like, very bad manipulation like this. Plus, there have even been some people, a small minority, but definitely some people, defending Junebug for some demented reason. I get it. He's mentally ill and has bipolar disorder. But at the end of the day, that does not excuse anything he has done. He did it of his own volition. It's not like there's a BPD alien in his head making him do stuff. It's himself making him do stuff. If we let out all criminals on basis of their crimes being consistent with some sort of mental illness, we'd pretty much have Richmond, Virginia looking like a GTA server in 0.3 seconds. My final thoughts are just autism scramble at this point, so I'll just end it with a direct address to Junebug, on the off chance that he's watching this. Junebug, you have had far, far, far more chances than most to get yourself together. I understand hesitation, but trying to live through others and their attention, sometimes by manipulating them, because you refuse to take even that first step to getting up at their headspace, is getting you nowhere. It will send you, and possibly even those around you, into a death spiral if you continue to fester. But guess what? It's avoidable. And you can change course whether you think of capable you're doing so or not. In fact, you already almost put someone into a death spiral. Selena. She fucking stuck with you through thick and thin in spite of the hardship, and you threw it all away because that, by the power of some possible other chore, somehow wasn't good. Even if it wasn't good enough, somehow wasn't good enough for you. Sorry. Like, and you try to pursue a romantic relationship with her despite the fact that you already were in a committed relationship. Most people would sell their brain for a best friend like Selena was, but alas, you flew too close to the sun, and you didn't even use the wings correctly. Furthermore, due to the sheer magnitude of your crime, she likely won't even want to think about you for months, years, or decades to come. There's a good possibility that she could forgive you, yes, but if you don't take initiative and use God's gift of the indomitable human spirit to actually better yourself, the cycle will be doomed to repeat, no matter what. I hope that this situation serves as a wake-up call to you, June, that you need to get off your ass. I'll keep it in my prayers that you sprint forth, redefine yourself, and change for the better. And I strongly recommend all of you to check out Violent Lesbian stuff on Twitch, TikTok, or Twitter, as she legitimately does pretty good stuff, and she deserves the love. I did reach out to her for comment/interview on this situation, but didn't get a response, and I encourage you all to not bother her as well, as she has stated that she doesn't even want to be thinking about this situation right now. And we're at the conclusion of this video, so if you wish, go ahead and follow my socials, like this video if it was to your liking, and subscribe with notifications on to see some of my future content. And comment down below your thoughts, and or tell me if you want to see more of this type of content in the future. And with that, I have been Zachary Flowers, and to summarize... Bro, what does this fucking insect even fucking do, man? I've never heard of this shit before.
Come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantic.